They just wanted to enjoy a peaceful barbecue in their backyard, until a woman who felt entitled to control everything decided she had a problem with that. What she didn't expect was that her call to the police would set off a chain of events that would end with her arrested, exposed, and humiliated in front of the entire nation. This is the true story of how one black family's courage turned injustice into a movement. It was supposed to be a perfect Sunday afternoon. The Henderson family had waited months to host this barbecue, an annual tradition passed down from grandparents who believed that no matter how tough the world got, you could always find peace around a grill with people who loved you. So they set up early. Lawn chairs, kids running in the yard, ribs sizzling over charcoal, Marvin Gaye playing softly in the background. It was laughter, it was family, it was joy, and it was the one thing their neighbor couldn't stand. Her name? Karen Whitmore. Everyone in the cul-de-sac knew her. Neat blonde bob, permanently squinted eyes, and a clipboard that seemed surgically attached to her arm. HOA board member, self-appointed keeper of the peace, and self-declared enforcer of rules that didn't exist. From the moment she saw the Hendersons setting up, her mouth twitched. She didn't say hello. She didn't wave. She just stood at her window watching. And then she made the call. Yes, I'd like to report a disturbance. A group of people are having a loud gathering. No, I don't feel safe. Yes, they're black. Across the street, Malik Henderson, a quiet man in his late 30s, was flipping burgers with his 10-year-old daughter perched on his shoulders. He worked as a mechanic during the week, spent weekends helping his community, and had never once had a complaint filed against him. Until today. His wife, Tanya, noticed the flashing blue lights first. They arrived fast. 3 squad cars. Too fast. Doors flung open. Hands already on tasers. Voices barking before questions were asked. Step away from the grill. Whose property is this? Let me see everyone's hands. Kids started crying. Plates clattered to the ground. Tanya reached for her ID, while Malik kept his hands raised high, the tongs still in his hand. This is our house, Malik said calmly. We live here. This is a family cookout. But the officer wasn't listening. Got a call about a loud party, possible altercation. We need to speak to the homeowner. Malik's hands trembled. I am the homeowner. That's when Karen stepped out. Bathrobe, phone in hand, arms folded with fake concern etched onto her face. I told you, she said to the officer. They're not from here. That kind of activity doesn't belong in our neighborhood. The cop looked back at Malik. Sir, step away from the grill. We need to verify your identity. The moment stung. Malik didn't raise his voice, didn't argue. He reached into his back pocket, slowly, and pulled out his wallet. I've lived here 7 years, he said. Same house, same block. Ask anyone. The officer didn't move. That's when Tanya did. Ask her, she snapped, pointing to Karen. Ask her what law we broke. Ask her why the only threat here is a family cooking ribs and playing Motown. Another officer stepped aside and spoke into his radio. Minutes ticked by, but something was changing. Neighbors began to gather, one by one. Mist and Gwen from 2 doors down. The Chavez family across the street. Even the Johnsons, who hadn't spoken much in years, stepped out with folded arms and raised eyebrows. A small crowd formed, and every single one of them had something to say. They live here. They're good people. We got the same party every year. Why are you really here? And then came the moment no one expected. The third officer walked back from his cruiser, holding a tablet. He glanced at Karen, then back at the lead cop. This man's name is Malik Henderson. This is his property. He's lived here since 2016. Record check out. No complaints, no disturbances, no violations. The officer turned to Karen. Ma'am, we're going to need to speak with you. Karen blinked. Me? Yes, ma'am. We'd like to know why you falsely reported a threat. That's a misuse of emergency services and possibly racial profiling. Her mouth dropped open. But I was just trying to. The officer didn't flinch. We'll need you to come with us. Karen screamed. This is insane. I'm the victim here. You're going to believe them over me? Yes, ma'am, the officer said. We are. They escorted her to the cruiser. The entire block stood still. Malik watched in silence as Karen was handcuffed, not aggressively, but firmly. As she was led away, she shouted, "I'll call my lawyer. I'll sue every one of you." But nobody was listening anymore, not even the cops. As the door closed and the squad car pulled away, Malik stood frozen at the edge of his yard. Tanya squeezed his hand. His daughter leaned against his side. And from the other side of the street, Mr. Nguyen raised a plate of ribs and smiled. "Grill's still hot, Malik. We got your back." Malik took a deep breath and nodded. But deep down, he knew it wasn't over. Because the next morning, an envelope would arrive on his doorstep. No return address. Just 2 words printed in bold black ink. "You're next." The envelope sat on Malik's porch like a threat no one wanted to say out loud. No name. No return address. Just 2 chilling words stamped in bold black ink. "You're next." Malik stared at it for a long moment, unsure whether to laugh or feel sick. His daughter, Amaya, was still asleep upstairs. Tanya was making coffee, humming like it was any other Monday. But this wasn't any other morning. The neighborhood cookout, the one Karen Whitmore had tried to ruin, was less than 24 hours behind them. Karen had been arrested in front of the entire cul-de-sac. The barbecue continued afterward, but the mood had shifted. People were watching. Eyes that had once ignored Malik now carried a quiet respect and a nervous curiosity. But now this. He brought the envelope inside, careful not to touch it more than necessary. Tanya looked up. "Everything okay?" Malik hesitated. "Got mail." She tilted her head. That's not the face of someone who just got a coupon flyer. He slid it across the table. Her smile disappeared. "What the hell is this?" she whispered, reading the message. "Is it from her?" "I don't know," he said. "But it was placed. Not mailed. Someone walked up to our house last night and left it." Tanya's eyes narrowed. "Call the police." When Officer Reeds arrived, one of the same cops who arrested Karen, he took the envelope and slipped it into an evidence bag. "No prints," he said. "Looks like someone used gloves." "Do you think it was Karen?" Malik asked. The officer shook his head. "She spent the night in holding. Got bailed out early this morning, but she was in custody when this was delivered." "Bailed out by who?" Tanya asked. "Good question," Reeds muttered. "We're checking into that now." By noon, the block was buzzing again. Some neighbors came by offering support. A few brought brownies or apology casseroles. One man even offered to install a Ring camera system, free of charge. But there were others. People who didn't say much. People who had always nodded politely, but now avoided eye contact. People who had once been Karen's allies on the HOA board. Malik noticed the shift, subtle but cold. Later that evening, the second message came. This time, it wasn't a letter. It was a sound. Scratch, scratch, clang. Malik stepped onto the porch and froze. His front lawn lights were out. Someone had slashed the wires. And next to the mailbox, in broad red spray paint, were 3 words. "Stay in line." The police came again. Took photos. Collected paint samples. But this time, they looked less hopeful. "We're not getting much cooperation from your neighbors," Officer Reed said. Half the block's suddenly gone quiet. No cameras facing the street. No witnesses. Malik clenched his jaw. "They're scared." "Or complicit," Tanya added. Reeds hesitated. "There's another thing. Karen's record? Clean. But the name of the person who bailed her out? George Whitmore. Her brother. And he's not just anyone." Malik raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "He's a former sheriff's deputy. Quietly resigned 2 years ago after a misconduct investigation. Very connected." Malik felt a chill crawl up his spine. That night, Malik couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floor made his heart jump. He sat by the window, watching shadows move across the cul-de-sac. Just past midnight, he heard the sound. A car engine. Slow. No lights. He pulled out his phone, pressed record, and zoomed in. A black SUV rolled by his house. Slowed. Then kept going. He couldn't see the driver's face, but he saw the decal on the rear window. Whitmore Realty Group. The next morning, Tanya screamed. Malik ran outside. Their garage had been broken into. Nothing stolen, just trashed. Boxes dumped. Tools broken. And one item placed dead center on the floor. A charred piece of rib bone. Malik's stomach dropped. Tanya covered Amaya's eyes and ushered her inside. It's not just about us anymore, Tanya said. They want us to break. To leave. Malik nodded slowly. Then we do the opposite. By Wednesday, the story had gone viral. Someone from the barbecue had filmed Karen's arrest and uploaded it to TikTok. 2.4 million views. The hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag BBQ while black. Hashtag Karen gets arrested. Hashtag family not felons. Hashtag real justice. Reporters started calling. News vans parked 2 blocks down. Malik declined every interview. But the pressure was building. And someone didn't like it. That evening, Tanya checked the mail and screamed again. Not because of what was inside, but because of what wasn't. Their house deed. Gone. The lock on their mailbox had been tampered with. Their important documents vanished. Malik's mind raced. He knew what this was. They're trying to erase us, he said. From paper. From the block. That night, he met with Officer Reeds privately. I need to know the truth, Malik said. How deep does this go? Reeds looked around nervously. Then he pulled out his phone and showed Malik a map of the block. 6 houses were highlighted. All of these belong to people with ties to Karen or her brother, he said. 3 of them are on the HOA board. 1 works at City Records. Malik's chest tightened. They're not just neighbors, Reeds continued. They're part of a machine. A network. And what do they want? Malik asked. Reeds hesitated, then said one word. Control. By Friday, Malik had made a decision. He wasn't going to run. He filed a formal legal complaint. Hired a lawyer. Spoke at the HOA meeting, on record. The room was packed. Neighbors watched with wide eyes as Malik stood, steady, unmoved, and said, We're not leaving. We're not backing down. And if anyone else here has been bullied into silence, now's the time to speak. Silence. Then one hand raised. Then another. And another. But just when things seemed to shift, Tanya got the call. A private number. She answered on speaker. The voice was masked, digitized, cold. You made a mistake going public. We warned you. Next time, we won't leave a message. We'll leave a mark. The line went dead. Malik turned to Tanya, jaw clenched. This wasn't just harassment anymore. It was war. Tanya stared at the phone, her hand trembling as the call disconnected. You made a mistake going public. Next time, we won't leave a message. We'll leave a mark. Those words echoed through the kitchen like a threat painted in fire. Malik didn't speak. He didn't have to. The air around them had shifted. This wasn't about a barbecue anymore. It wasn't even about Karen. This was personal, coordinated, and whoever was behind it wanted one thing, control through fear. But Malik Henderson? He wasn't going to break. He stood, phone in one hand, the other clenched in a tight fist. I'm done waiting for them to act, he said, voice low but steady. We make the next move. The next morning, Malik met with a civil rights attorney named Danielle Graves, recommended by one of the neighbors, who had finally spoken up. She didn't waste time. This isn't a harassment case anymore, she said, flipping through documents on Malik's table. This is organized intimidation, possibly racketeering. You're not the only family they've done this to, but you're the first to stand up in public. Danielle pulled out her tablet and tapped the screen. See this? She zoomed in on a real estate document. They've been doing this for years, manipulating HOA laws, pushing out families they don't want, flipping the houses for profit. Malik's stomach turned. They use property violations to build a case, fabricate safety complaints, manipulate records. Your missing deed? Classic tactic. They're likely trying to file a lien and claim ownership by technicality. Tanya gasped. That's illegal. Danielle nodded. So is the voicemail. But we need more than just fear tactics. We need evidence. Real evidence. That night, Malik installed 4 hidden cameras around the house. Backyard. Garage. Mailbox. Even one in the flower pot on the porch. It was time to bait the trap. The plan? Simple. Stay quiet. Act normal. And wait. It didn't take long. 3 nights later, just after 2 a.m., the motion sensors triggered. Malik, already half awake, grabbed his phone and opened the live feed. He couldn't believe what he saw. A figure dressed in black, hoodie pulled low, crouched by the mailbox. Another moved along the side of the house, flashlight cutting through the dark. One of them paused, spray can in hand, aiming at the garage wall. Malik hit record and called Officer Reeds. "This is it," Malik said. "They're back." The officer arrived in minutes, quiet, no sirens. He and another officer approached silently, with flashlights drawn. "Hands where we can see them." The figures bolted, but one tripped on the curb and was tackled instantly. The others got away. But when the hood was pulled back, Malik's heart nearly stopped. It was Noah Trask, Karen Whitmore's nephew. Barely 20, but already wrapped up in the toxic legacy of his family. He refused to talk, but the spray paint in his hand was enough. They arrested him on the spot. By morning, the video footage had gone viral. Danielle posted it with a statement. "This is what intimidation looks like. This is what courage looks like. And this is why we fight." The story made local news. Then regional. HOA board members started distancing themselves. Karen hadn't been seen in days. But just when it seemed like the tide was turning, something happened. Malik got home late, from work 2 days later. Tanya met him at the door, face pale. Amaya didn't come home from school. The sentence didn't register at first. "What do you mean?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "She never got on the bus. The driver said she wasn't at pickup." Malik's chest collapsed inward. His heart thundered. He ran to grab his keys, but before he could open the door, his phone buzzed. "Block number." He answered on speaker. A distorted voice crackled through. "You should have kept quiet. Now we have your daughter. Next time you speak to the press, she disappears forever." Malik dropped the phone. Tanya screamed. The next 30 minutes were chaos. Police were called. Amber Alert triggered. Officers swept through the neighborhood. A full search launched. But no sign of Amaya. Danielle arrived in under an hour, already on the phone with the FBI. But it was Malik who noticed the detail no one else saw. He went to the front yard, kneeling beside the flower pot with the hidden camera. He rewound the footage, slowed it down, and there it was. A white van, no plates, pulled up at 3:14 p.m. sharp. A man in a mask stepped out. Amaya walked toward him, hesitant, confused. She turned to run. He grabbed her. Gone in 10 seconds. It was deliberate, clean, and terrifying. Malik clenched his jaw. This wasn't random. Danielle nodded grimly. No, this was planned. They want leverage. By the next morning, the story was national news. Black family targeted after viral barbecue arrest. Daughter kidnapped in apparent retaliation. The public was outraged. Protests were forming. Donations pouring in. Legal aid from across the country reaching out. But none of it mattered to Malik. Not until Amaya was home. He stood in his living room, surrounded by officers, lawyers, and journalists, and made a vow. I don't care how powerful they think they are. I don't care how many threats they send. I will burn down this entire machine if I have to get my daughter back. Later that evening, another envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a single photo. Blurry. Grayscale. Amaya. Tied to a chair. Eyes wide. Safe but scared. And behind her, a symbol spray painted on the wall. A red W inside a black circle. Karen's last name. Whitmore. And underneath it, a message scrawled in marker. Justice has a price. Want her back. Meet us. Alone. No date. No time. Just GPS coordinates. Deep in the woods. 40 miles from town. Malik's hand shook as he looked at the coordinates. Tanya grabbed his arm. Malik, no, this could be a trap. He didn't respond. He just stared out the window. Because he knew. This wasn't about justice anymore. This was war. And war demands sacrifice. Malik didn't hesitate. He memorized the GPS coordinates, locked his phone, and stared into the woods printed on that photograph, like they were already calling his name. His daughter was out there, scared, tied up, used as a pawn in a power game fueled by hate and entitlement. There would be no negotiation, no delay. He was going to get her back. But what they didn't know was that Malik wasn't going alone. Before sunrise, Malik sat in the precinct across from Officer Reed's and attorney Danielle Graves, laying out a plan that no one, not even the Whitmore family, could see coming. This meeting, Danielle said, tapping the photo of Amaya, isn't just about intimidation anymore. This is kidnapping. We have one shot, and I want the press to see what justice looks like when it fights back. Reeds nodded. I'll have backup standing by. SWAT's already en route. But Malik, if you step 1 foot onto that property, you have to keep them talking until we're in position. Malik's face was stone. I'll bring her home. The coordinates led to an old hunting lodge deep in the Ocala National Forest. No signal, no neighbors, just pine trees, fog, and silence so thick you could choke on it. Malik arrived alone, dressed in all black, with a hidden mic in his jacket and a camera in the button of his shirt, streaming directly to law enforcement and a team of federal agents. The moment he stepped out of the car, the door to the lodge creaked open, and out walked George Whitmore. Tall, cold-eyed, a man who used to wear a badge and still thought he could decide who did and didn't belong. You actually came, George sneered. I want my daughter, Malik said. His voice didn't shake. George gestured inside. You'll get her, but not until we talk about how this ends. You've stirred up a lot of noise, Malik. Viral videos, lawsuits, news coverage. You're becoming a symbol, and that's bad for business. Malik kept his eyes forward. You want me to be afraid? George smirked. I want you to disappear. Malik stepped forward. Then you should have buried me, because I'm still standing. Inside, the lodge was dim. Old hunting trophies on the wall, antlers, rifles, and plaques. And in the corner, Amaya sat tied to a chair, eyes wide but alert. She wasn't crying. She was watching, listening, learning, just like her father. You'll release her, Malik said, and then you'll turn yourselves in. George let out a low, guttural laugh. Boy, you walked into the lion's den with nothing but that mouth. But what George didn't realize was that the cabin was already surrounded. Officer Reed's, Danielle, and the tactical unit were in position, live-streaming Malik's feed to a command post, the media waiting just behind the police line. And then, something unexpected happened. Karen Whitmore walked out of the back room, still dressed in pearls, makeup perfect, but her hands were shaking. Uncle, this has gone too far, she whispered. George whipped around. Quiet, Karen. No, she said, louder now. This isn't justice. It's madness. It was a barbecue, a neighborhood barbecue, and we tried to ruin them for it. Look what we've become. Malik stepped between them. You became what you always were. You just didn't think anyone would stand up. Karen's lip trembled. She looked at Amaya, then away. That's when Malik heard it. Boots crunching leaves. Dozens of them. Now, Officer Reeds shouted into his radio. The door burst open. Police, get on the ground. George reached for something under his coat, then froze as 10 red dots lit up his chest. He dropped the object. It was a key. Malik snatched it, rushed to Amaya, and unlocked the restraints. She flung herself into his arms, crying for the first time, but not from fear, from relief. I knew you'd come, Daddy, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. Always. Within the hour, the property was secured. George and 2 other men were arrested for kidnapping, conspiracy, and racketeering. Karen, though cooperative, was also taken into custody for obstruction and prior harassment. But the story didn't end at the lodge, because the world was watching. The footage of Malik confronting George, the arrest, Amaya's rescue, it was broadcasted across every major news outlet that evening. The clip of Karen, once smug and untouchable, being led into a police cruiser, went viral within hours. And when Malik stood before the press with his wife and daughter by his side, he said only one thing. We are not your fear. We are your mirror, and we will no longer be silent. The crowd erupted. Within weeks, the Whitmore family's assets were frozen. The HOA board was dissolved. Malik and Tanya's lawsuit won a $2.5 million settlement, half of which they donated to local civil rights and neighborhood rebuilding efforts. The community organized its first Unity barbecue, with Malik as guest speaker. But the biggest win wasn't financial. It was generational, because Amaya, who once watched her father be mocked for grilling ribs, now stood on the school stage, delivering a speech titled, "When Justice Sits at the Table." Malik didn't become a symbol because he wanted attention. He became a symbol because he refused to sit down when injustice stood tall. Karen wanted him silenced. George wanted him erased. But instead, the entire world heard his voice. And the message was loud and clear. Enough is enough. If this story lit a fire in you, don't just scroll past. Like this video if you believe standing up to injustice should never be punished. Drop a comment below. What would you have done in Malik's position? Have you ever faced a situation like this? Share this with someone who needs to be reminded. Justice doesn't knock, it kicks the door open. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where the underestimated rise and the world watches them win. This isn't just storytelling. This is about changing lives through stories. And we're just getting started.